This wedding was an assignment for my Religion 2 class in Catholic school.
This one's wife, Harry the Emasculated. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Narcissists are everywhere. You only have to access my extensive catalogue of work to realise that. For you to understand that narcissists are in positions of power in government, lead nations. They are amongst the pop stars and rock stars, the authors. They work in your corner shop. They may well share your bed. They're in your family, amongst your friendship group. You work with them. You've just purchased a newspaper from one. Our kind permeate all aspects of society, some areas with a greater concentration than others. If you have not watched my video, The Future of This Channel, and I urge you to do so because it contains important information, you'll find further examples of how narcissists are everywhere. Notwithstanding this, however, it is still the case that many people don't understand which people are narcissists, and they do not understand what that means for the people around them. And an excellent example of this is provided in a Daily Mail article. It's written by Amanda Platel. The headline is, "My warning to this one's wife. If you want your marriage to last, don't emasculate once proud Harry and turn him into a +1, like I did to my ex-husband." What does emasculate mean? It means to deprive a man of his male role or identity. It also means to make something or someone weaker or less effective. In this instance, Amanda Platel writes, "Decades after the end of my marriage, there's a question I still ask myself. When my then husband John told me that he was sick of living in my shadow, why did I not show him more empathy? Instead, I said cruelly, 'Then why don't you try casting one of your own?' Ouch. My words must have been particularly cutting because we were both journalists, but while my career unexpectedly soared, through luck, grit and long hours, his began to dwindle. He was spending more time in the pub than in the office, and less time with me. The more successful I became, the more resentful and withdrawn he became, and the more I stopped seeing him as the magnificent man and loving partner he once was. I didn't put him first, and most tragically, I lost sight of him as my lover, so he found another. I was devastated when I discovered he was having an affair with a younger woman, and furious, not just about the betrayal, but his inability to man up and be proud of what I'd achieved, what I thought we'd achieved together. Both were understandable sentiments, but looking back, I can see that I was so full of righteous indignation that I failed to see the part I had played in our demise. Namely, that, preoccupied by my own ascent, I'd unwittingly relegated my rock and my stay to the subsidiary role of my +1. He was no longer a name in his own right. He was merely the other guest, invited alongside me to grand events. Whenever we went to the Royal Opera House, to Bruce Springsteen concerts, gala newspaper events, dinner with friends, I was always the centre of attention. And this was some fall from grace for John, a former newspaper executive who'd also been the centre of my world in the early days of our relationship. These memories came flooding back after reading headlines mocking Prince Harry for being nothing more than his fabulous wife's +1. Now, pausing there, Amanda Platel, bigging herself up and perhaps seeking some form of catharsis through this article, but drawing the comparison between the way that she lost her husband because he became relegated to a position of the spare, a spare in his own marriage, the +1 to her supposed brilliance. She sees that there are parallels between what happened in her marriage and the Sussexes. She continues by stating, For months now, rumours have circulated that all might not be paradise inside the Sussex's £12 million Monty Shitshow mansion. That a miserable-looking Harry increasingly cuts a forlorn figure, playing second fiddle to the magnificent This One's Wife. During their 2 faux royal tours to Nigeria and Colombia earlier this year, he was very much the sideshow. Barely 2 years after he betrayed himself as the forgotten spare in his Vengefest book of the same name, is Prince Harry in danger of becoming a spare part in his own marriage too. Despite her unpopularity in the United States, This One's Wife has managed to establish herself on the celebrity circuit in the States. I'm not sure that's right. Turning up unexpectedly at the LA Children's Hospital Gala this week, greeting children, dressed in show-stopping red and posing for snaps shared worldwide, while Harry was alone in southern Africa, where he had travelled to visit the charity he co-founded in Lesotho. He also spent the night of his 40th birthday, recently hiking with his mates rather than with his wife and 2 children, something I fear should ring alarm bells in any marriage. Yet This One's Wife even took ownership of that trip, saying it was her gift to him, seemingly having the effect of deliberately or inadvertently emasculating him again. As someone who once made similar mistakes, mine is a cautionary tale. When my marriage hit at crisis point, my husband didn't go on hiking trips, he was just increasingly missing in action, never wanting to be around when my parents or friends visited, increasingly off on his own, or, as I later discovered, with his mistress. Of course, I'm not comparing the unexpected minor celebrity status I attained early on in my marriage to that of This One's Wife. And yet, as the girl from Apple Creek in Perth, Australia, who became an overnight success, I'd be lying if I said I didn't find all the attention intoxicating. She then goes back to telling us about what had happened in her marriage and how it had all gone wrong, etc., which we're not really here to analyse that. But the comparison is that she became the celebrity in her own marriage, and it led to the demise of her marriage. And she's suggesting that there is a risk of this happening to This One's Wife as a consequence of her emasculation of Prince Harry. But what this shows is a complete lack of understanding of what This One's Wife is and the dynamic that takes place with Harry. It isn't the case that she has started to emasculate him. She did so from the very beginning. The moment that This One's Wife sunk her claws into Harry, as she ensnared him as the narcissist that she is, she began to take him over. She began to strip him of his identity, to make him an extension of herself. She states that there's a danger of him becoming a spare part in his own marriage. He's always been a spare part in the marriage. He's always been a spare part in the relationship. He has always been second fiddle, because that's the nature of the dynamic when you are involved with a narcissist. If you're a friend to the narcissist, you're a bit part player. If you're a family member to the narcissist, you're a supporting cast member. If you're having an affair with a narcissist, you're the other person. If you're married or in a relationship with the narcissist, you're there to be the plus one. The narcissist is always the star. When it comes to a female narcissist and a male victim, he is emasculated from the very beginning, because it is the nature of the narcissist, through the need to control, to subjugate that individual. It can be done in subtle ways, it can be done in obvious ways, but the effect is the same, and the outcome is always that, which is the victim comes second, always comes second. It isn't the case that Harry has become emasculated. He was emasculated from the very beginning. It isn't the case of him becoming a spare part in his own marriage. He already is. He was from the very moment that they came together. Initially, of course, through the golden period and love bombing, it won't have felt like he was a spare part. It won't even look like he was a spare part. But he was, because the narcissist needs come first. But as he enters a sustained devaluation, it becomes all the more evident as to who's the most important individual. And the fact is that Amanda Platel, whilst banging on about her own circumstances, demonstrates once again the complete failure of an individual to understand narcissism and the narcissistic dynamic. There is no point saying to this one's wife, if you want your marriage to last, don't emasculate once proud Harry. It's too late. She did that from the very beginning. The issue of the marriage lasting is, for the most part, down to this one's wife. Yes, Harry might yet escape her, but usually it's the narcissist that makes the decision as to where the relationship goes, particularly where the victim has no idea what they're dealing with. This article demonstrates once again the failure of people to recognize a narcissist and to understand what the dynamic actually means. And this once again demonstrates the importance of my work in explaining what's really going on. That I explained from the very beginning how Harry was a bit part in the relationship, that he plays second fiddle to the needs and desires of this one's wife. And this is why this work is so important. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.